The dining room of the Sterling mansion was unusually quiet. That evening, crystal chandeliers illuminated the enormous mahogany table, but at one end sat Eleanor Sterling, the elderly mother of millionaire Alexander Sterling, staring at another untouched plate. For months, Eleanor had barely eaten. Doctors had examined her repeatedly. Specialists had recommended different diets, expensive treatments, and nutritional plans, but nothing seemed to help. Every evening, the staff brought her carefully prepared meals, and every evening, most of the food returned untouched. Alexander had tried everything. "Mother, please eat something," he said softly. Eleanor shook her head. "I'm simply not hungry." Alexander looked helplessly at the full plate. He had money, influence, and access to the best doctors in the city. Yet he couldn't solve the one problem that mattered most to him. That evening, a new cook named Daniel arrived at the mansion. Instead of immediately preparing an elaborate meal, Daniel asked the housekeeper a simple question. What did Mrs. Sterling enjoy eating before all this started? The housekeeper hesitated. Her husband's cooking. Daniel looked surprised. What did he make? Simple things. Tomato soup, fresh bread, roasted vegetables, nothing like the expensive meals served here. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. Then I'll make that an hour later. Daniel entered the dining room, carrying a steaming bowl of homemade tomato soup, warm bread, and roasted vegetables. Eleanor glanced at the food. I don't want dinner, Daniel smiled. That's okay. She looked at him curiously. Then why did you bring it? Because maybe you're not hungry for dinner. Eleanor frowned. What does that mean? Daniel placed the bowl gently in front of her. Maybe you're hungry for something that reminds you of home. Eleanor's expression suddenly changed. Daniel continued quietly. I heard your husband used to make tomato soup for you. She stared at him. He did every Sunday. Eleanor nodded slowly. He made it every Sunday morning. Daniel smiled then. Maybe tonight isn't about eating. Maybe it's about remembering. For several seconds, Eleanor said nothing. Then she slowly picked up the spoon. Alexander watched from the doorway. Eleanor tasted the soup, her eyes widened. She took another spoonful, then another. Alexander couldn't believe what he was seeing. His mother had barely eaten more than a few bites for months. Tonight she finished the entire bowl. When Daniel came to collect the dishes, Eleanor stopped him. Wait. She pointed toward the chair beside her. Sit down. Daniel hesitated before taking the seat. Eleanor looked at him with tears in her eyes. Do you know why I stopped eating? Daniel shook his head. After my husband died. Every meal reminded me that he wasn't sitting across from me anymore. She touched the empty bowl. Food stopped tasting like food. Her voice trembled, but tonight she smiled through her tears. It tasted like him. Alexander walked over and gently took his mother's hand. Daniel lowered his eyes. I didn't do anything special. Eleanor shook her head. You listened. And for the first time in months, Eleanor asked for another bowl. That simple request left Alexander speechless. He finally understood that his mother hadn't needed another expensive solution. She had needed someone to understand the pain hidden behind her silence.